Alright, it looks like we are live. Awesome. Give it a couple minutes, let some people join on. Alright, let's get this thing started. My name is Saxon, everybody. Welcome to another camera class. Today is the fourth and final Thursday of June. I can't believe it went by this quick. But we are now doing our Beyond the Traditional camera. So let me stand up here. So let's talk a little bit about and review what we've talked about over the last how many weeks. If you guys have been here since the beginning, since day one of this month, then you're probably familiar with most of what we've talked about. But if you are just joining for the first time, well, welcome to one of my camera classes. I'm Saxon. I teach these every Thursday from 5:30 to 7. So, intro class, we talked about the very bare bones of cameras. I wanted to make sure you understood how the buttons work, how things are, listed on the camera, and then not only that, but I wanted to take the time to just get you familiar with lenses and kind of realizing and knowing what you need. And I put "need" in quotation marks because you don't really need anything. You can make it work with what you have. Intermediate cameras, we talk more about the manual control, f-stop, shutter, all the bits and bobs that go into taking photos in a more efficient, more controlled manner. Again, the whole point of manual control, the whole point of cameras, is to have that experience where you're customizing, using the buttons, and switching stuff based on your preferences. Last week we had advanced photography. We get away from the, photo kind of. What's the best way to put advanced? We get more into the stylized form of photo taking, right? This isn't about you learning how to control the camera. This is about you learning how to just take a good photo. After that, we talk about things like editing. How do you do that? How do you go about? And more advanced accessories. Things that I think that as a photographer, you might need to invest in so that way you have proper control over taking photos and all of that. Now, beyond the traditional camera, we're going to go more into the advanced gear that you can get. This isn't about you just using a camera body or you using a traditional mirrorless camera. No, this is more about you getting more stylized and adding more tools to your arsenal, more weapons that you can use at any point in time to get the best results possible. And here is really what I mean by all of that. So, let's get into it. Why advance past your camera? There's a lot of pieces of equipment on the market. You are a photographer, you're brand new to this. You need to make sure you're investing your money properly. Portability in travel is a huge part of this whole thing. These things are portable, they're durable, they're really small in most cases. Even the drones, if you're not getting some of the higher end, bigger drones, the smallest one, the Mini series, for example, or even the ones from Potensic drones, the ones that we're currently carrying right now with everything going on with DJI. They're great products. They're easy, they're foldable, you can carry them around with you pretty easily. Going into that, they're durable. A lot of these cameras we're talking about today are waterproof. They can take a beating, they can get hit, and they can still keep working, which is awesome. They have fantastic recording time. If you are brand new to photography, some of the cameras that you might acquire or you look at only have about 30 minutes of recording time. And then you have to stop and start the video. Whereas something like this, these things can keep recording the entire time. And they have really good, long, lengthy recording periods. So, again, for videographers, this could be a dream. And then my favorite thing is the ability to fly or record over distances. Now, the reason I put this on there are drones take us to new heights and have new abilities that we've never seen before. And it's really amazing what they can do and what people are using them for. So, the reason we want to advance past our camera are for things like this. We are limited by what our mirrorless or DSLR, or maybe our point-and-shoot bridge camera can do. And we need to add more tools in order to get better video, photo, or footage, or content, or whatever it is that we're doing. And if none of that speaks to you, then maybe you just want a new toy and you want something to play with this summer. Well, this could be the answer. First and foremost, where do your pictures go? Make sure you have 2 of them. In the beginning intro camera class that we did at the beginning of the month, We talked about SD cards. In this case, we're going to be talking about micro SD cards. It's smaller, more compact counterpart. Micro SD cards are important because they're going to be the main way that we're storing these videos and footage. Remember that most cameras have some to no internal storage. Some have no way of saving the information onto the camera. It's necessary, or better yet, it's required to have one of these. You should just buy a micro SD card in general if you're buying any of the products we're talking about. The only one that this would exclude from is your standard camcorder, but we'll get to that later. Most cameras that we're picking up have some to no internal storage. Something that has a good read and write speed is what you're looking at. Look at the card, it'll tell you it says 90 megabytes a second, 100 megabytes a second. For 4K or 8K video, that's very impressive and it's a great speed to be looking at. So I probably would say 90, I'd say 85 plus on the read and write speed, you'd be good. And 64 gigs or higher. Again, if you look at how much space is taken up from a 4K or even an HD video, having something that's at least 64, and in my personal opinion, I'd recommend 128 or 256 would be necessary. This will give you the ability to download all of these videos and footage, delete the card, reuse it over and over again, but it'll ensure that if you only have one of these cards and you don't follow the rules I give, then at least you'll have enough space to get an hour, maybe an hour and a half worth of recording. Your picture should never live on your memory card. This is something I teach in the very beginning, so this looks familiar, it's because it is. I think that it's very important that we just have these conversations and discussions and talk about it again. But, as I said before, the memory card is a vehicle. It's going to take you from point A to point B as you're driving, right? So if we think about our house being point A and work being point B, then our camera is point A and our computer is point B. Memory card goes in between the two of these to download the footage. They don't live in there, they just download, and then from there you clear out those cards and continue to use them. Don't lose pictures or damage your card. So this is my way of transferring everything to make sure that we do this properly. So first and foremost, land your drone, turn off the camera unit. Wait about 5 seconds, then remove the card. Afterwards, place the card into the reader. And your best practice is always to remove the card and try to avoid using the camera to send pictures to and from. Now, that's not to say you can't do it. There are great ways. Apps are available on all of these pieces where you can then download the images via the app and then save them to your phone or tablet. They are going to reduce the quality of the photos slightly. Keep that in mind. If you're posting this stuff for social media, Instagram, maybe you want to send your friends a picture or two and just show them the cool things you're doing on vacation, awesome, go for it. But if you're trying to take these photos, these high quality or professional photos or videos off of your pieces, I would definitely recommend downloading them via either the cable or by putting the SD card into the computer. I wouldn't recommend using the cable all that often, but if you have no other options, you don't want to buy an SD card reader, I would then go that route. But I would recommend invest in a good card reader. They go a long way, and this helps too in case you forget a cable. Or let's say that you're on the go and you're at someone else's computer, but you have your camera bag that has the reader in there. It's those little things that can save you over time that, again, you might not think about now, but it's a good idea eventually. Next step, we're going to copy photos to a destination folder. Don't move them, you're going to copy them, duplicate them. This way, if anything goes wrong, we've got a backup. If we're using Windows, we're using Explorer, and if we're using Mac, it's Finder to put all these in. And then copy them to a second place. Not move, but copy them to an external hard drive, Prime Photos, Google Drive, anywhere that works best for you. Next, eject the card before physically removing it. Format the card in the camera, and try not to erase it in the reader. You can if that's the best way to do it for you. However, I do recommend using the format tool in the camera settings. What that's going to do is format the card so that way all the information on there is erased, but it preps the card so that way you have the most optimized photo and video taking possible. This could be the difference of 100 photos. This could be the difference of an hour worth of footage. Again, all SD cards are a little bit differently, but formatting the card in the camera ensures that the camera is prepped and primed for that camera. Think about it like a roll of film. You roll a film, put a roll of film into a camera. You then start moving it and passing it forward along through its actual chain. While doing that, you're prepping the camera so that way it's ready to take photos and it's optimized for that. Similar thing can be said with what we're doing here. Now here's your backup plan. We start with the physical SD card. That's what captures and saves the photo via the camera. We move that to a laptop. Once we get that all onto a laptop, we're then going to copy it into 2 different places. You can keep it on the computer as one copy, but I would recommend putting it onto a hard drive or something that's a cloud-based solution like Google Drive, Prime Photos. Those are great options. I personally use a hard drive. I just like having that standard, hard object, but you can do it however you find is the best for you. But I do recommend trying a cloud-based solution of some kind out. They're great. For the most part, a lot of them are free. And once you get to a certain size or certain quantity of gigabytes, that's when you pay for it. But again, look into it, try it out, see if it's something you even enjoy. And if it is, I would highly recommend trying it out. I think they're great options, and I think they're easy to use too. So if you're in a different country, let's say, and you save your photos onto the Google Drive, when you get back home or you go to another country or wherever it is, you can access them again. They're always with you, no matter what computer, device, or area you sign into, you have access to that kind of stuff. Now let's go through a tour of your device. I'm going to break down the 4 different devices we're talking about today, which is an action camera, a drone, a camcorder, and a 360 camera. Those are the 4 devices we're going to be talking about today. Those are the most prevalent, non-traditional camera pieces of equipment that you'll see on the market nowadays. They're very popular, very in demand, and they're easy to use. I think that's something that we kind of don't think about because we're always so concerned about, getting new products and not knowing how to use them. All of these cameras are very basic, but they work really well. So what I'm going to do is give you a kind of a guided tour about the device, tell you a little bit about it, and then from there you can kind of make your own pick to see if that's something that you would want to add to the arsenal of equipment you have. Start with the GoPros or action cameras. A lot of people know them by the name GoPro. Not a lot of people call them action-based cameras. Why are they action cameras? For the reasons we're about to list now. So, the big thing to talk with most of these is going to be the cameras, controls, button layouts, and features, right? There are 2 buttons on this whole camera. The top button is our capture button. Takes a photo or starts and stops your video. On the side of the device is the power button. By holding this button down, you will power on and off the unit. You can also toggle between time-lapse photo and video as well. And the screen is everything. The screen will show you the following pieces of information that will be important to you, and you can change and do whatever you kind of want with those. But these are the settings that you'll see on the screen. FPS, frames per second. Angle and lens millimeter size. For example, you go wide, it'll tell you it's a 16 to 34. The video quality. Are we shooting in HD, 2.7K, 4K, and some of these newer cameras that are coming out even have 8K experience. Hindsight, hyper smooth. Two features that give you both the ability to not shake while you're recording video, but also then have human tracking and software built in so that way you keep people in focus. And then the front screen. It's not a touch screen. However, it will show you the video duration during a selfie mode, so you can actually see what you're recording and then for how long. The different modes that we're looking at here, right? So we have photo mode, allows you to capture stills and frames rather than take videos. Time lapse, the video will record over a duration of time, anywhere from 30 minutes to 3 hours. Then it'll play it back within seconds or minutes. Video, you can record video for whatever duration you want, whatever quality you want, and with features like Hypersmooth put into it already. Now these are some clips that I really like. They show off, I think, the cool parts about GoPros. And I think that this then goes into the last slide that I have, which is why do we care about GoPros? GoPros are durable. They can take a beating, as we see in the motocross video. They're waterproof and they're sealed, so if you want to take them in the water like you do in the surfing video, you can. And not only that, but you get really cool first-person action and views unlike anything else. And you can see that with the lacrosse players in the bottom screen too as they're hitting each other and running. Durable, first-person views. There's millions of accessories out there for these products. So why would you want to get or use an action camera? It's to add a little bit more pizzazz to your video. There's a lot of this stuff that you could do with your mirrorless or DSLR camera, which might lead to better quality or maybe better content. However, when you think about it, that camera that you're about to put through the ringer could be damaged through all this process because they're not waterproof and sealed, much like its action camera, GoPro, or otherwise is. And putting your camera at risk like that just probably won't make the most sense. So why use an action camera? It's to get all of the shots you thought would be impossible because your camera wasn't strong enough or waterproof. Drones. These typically are the most popular of my class conversation. A lot of people really like it. We will talk a little bit about the current situation with DJI, but mainly we're just going to talk about drones as a whole. There are different drone types, but however, the one we're talking about today is the quadcopter. The different types that we'll see are single rotors. They look like a typical helicopter. Your quadcopter, the most popular style of drone sold on a consumer level right now. Within that, there's two different types. There's FPV and Cine. FPV, you need goggles to fly, but typically only comes as a quadcopter. And Cine flies as a quadcopter, but has a high-quality camera and tracking feature. Again, if you want to do tricks, flips, and stunts, then you probably want an FPV. If you want to do things that are more cinematic and you want the footage to then put onto videos that you're making, a Cine drone is probably the better one to do. Hexacopters are six-bladed copters, great for filming and stability in the air. And fixed-wing rotors are more of a plane experience. They're great for people who want less of that copter experience and more of a plane-type experience. Now, controller and button layout. There are multiple different styles of controllers you might see for drones. Some that involve your phone being clamped on. Others involve your not having a phone clamped on, and instead you just rely on what the controller sees. Both are extremely popular. Both have their pros and their cons. However, the drone will require some form of screen to be used. When flying, DJI, for example, will have you connect your phone to your controller. Other pro controllers will have a screen built in, and they'll show you everything on that screen. It really is your comfortability with it. I personally will say that there is not too much of a difference between the phone and then the pro controller. Pro to the phone controller is the fact that it's cheaper, it's easy to use, you can save immediately from the video you're taking because it is your cell phone that's connected to the drone. And then from there, it's just pretty straightforward. Now, the only downside is that your phone's on there. So if you want to look at text or calls or anything else, you really can't do that while you're flying. On the flip side, with the Pro controller, it takes battery very quickly, so it does run out of charge faster than normal. However, though, everything's built into the screen, so you can just see what you're flying and see what you're seeing through the drone. Now, that being said, while you're doing that, there will be times where you notice that the transfer to get video from the controller or the phone, or sorry, from the controller or the drone to something else, you got to take the drone down and then set it up. Whereas with the actual phone controller, you don't have to. Bright side is though, you have a controller that's dedicated for the drone with no need to have a screen, or no need to have another controller. So most controls will have the same controls, but all are going to differ though. So these are what the typical controls you'll see on the drone itself, or on the controller itself. So control sticks, one joystick will control up and down movement, as well as rotation. The other will control front to backwards, side to side movement. Antennas, point them outwards. These are the connection point between the drone and the controller. The gimbal dial, rotational control over the drone's camera. Record button, clicking this will record or take a picture. Focus or shutter, this will give you the ability to refocus on what you're filming or what you're shooting, and then it'll give you control over the shutter and the speed of that shutter as well. And then the RTH button, return to home, gives you the ability to send the drone back to the place it took off from. I do not recommend using this on a moving object though, because it will come back to where it took off from. So if you're on a boat, it will fly to where you took off from, which if you left in the water, or you left from the dock or the shore, well, it's probably going to go right into the water, then you're out of the drone. So, what I would recommend is RTH button and a stable, solid place that you're at that's not moving, so that way you're nice and flat. On the screen, so you're going to see distance from you and the drone. You're going to see the altitude of the drone. The ability to switch between photo and video. Map with geofencing and surrounding area. Active track, cancel or start. Return to home. And the immediate land button. So the next big part of all this is understanding permits in the FAA. So when it comes to this, the FAA is the Federal Aviation Association. There are 2 permits that you could purchase. Those 2 permits, so one of them, if your drone is under 249 grams, you do not need a permit of any kind unless you're doing commercial work for business or pay. The best way to ask yourself about that is the video you're making for yourself, for your entertainment, and for any entertainment purposes. If that is the case, then you're fine. If you're going to sit there and say, oh, well, I'm going to make this video for somebody who wants it for their business, and they're going to pay me some money for it, or I'm just doing this as a charitable donation of my time. Well, now you're looking at something that is going to require you to have that registration. Registering your drone, though, can be accessed on the FAA.gov website. It costs $5. Includes a course of information needed to be read. After that, you clearly write the permit number on the drone, and if you're stopped for any reason, you then have that proof of registration. Now, that is only if your drone is overweight, over the 249 grams. If you're going to do business or pay, you got to look at Part 107. You pay $175. You take a course on flying. And after completion, you can now do this for commercial or business-based work with your drone. You're fully licensed. You then can take insurance out on this, so in case something were to go horribly wrong, you're protected as a flyer as well too. There's a lot of moving pieces with that Part 107, but it is something that you should look at if you are interested in doing this. Last thing we're going to talk about, and then I'm going to tell a little bit more about DJI and what's going on with them, geofencing. The FAA has a full website listed where you can actually look to see what the geofencing and restriction rules are of your area. So before you get all excited, you buy a drone, you're ready to do all this stuff, take a look at it. Geofencing is a virtual wall. The drone will not allow you to push forward or fly in these areas, and typically the fencing exists by airports, government buildings, national parks, and certain cities or properties. When it comes to DJI, they are the #1 drone seller on the consumer market by far. They've recently come into some controversy over labor concerns, and so the U.S. for about, let's say, 7 or 8 months now, has been blocking them from coming in through customs. You will see some places get trickle inventory of them, but it's very far in between. You're most likely going to have to buy a DJI product from a third-party vendor or seller, and it could possibly be used. We're hoping that this gets cleared up soon. Rumor has it that by 2026, we should be good to go again. They're going to have this fixed up and taken care of. However, while it does sound promising, there is no confirmation quite yet on it. So this has kind of become a little bit of a cat and mouse game with getting these products in. We unfortunately ran out of our inventory a long time ago, and since we didn't foresee this, we did not stock up or buy as much as we probably could have, just because we didn't. No one knew this was going to happen. So, for the most part, if you can get one, definitely grab one. There are other great brands out there, though. We're currently carrying Hover Air, which is kind of like an action camera on wings. It tracks and follows you and gets really cool shots. And then there's also Potensic. Potensic's a newer brand. We've been carrying it for a little bit now. It does sell. They do look nice. They have good camera control, and the price point that they come in isn't as stark as some of the DJI products. So if you are looking to get into it at a lower cost but still quality, Potensic's a good brand to look at. And here are some clips of what you could expect to see as you're flying the drone and using it to its full ability. Now, I like to ask why after every product, because I think it's important that we figure out and justify these purchases, or think about why we could use this. Drones are incredible pieces of equipment to have as a photographer or a videographer. The fact that you can fly and get these footage or these film clips isn't fantastic, but the fact that you can hit new heights and ranges never seen before is even more incredible. When you really think about it and look at all of this, you can see how amazing the drone's technology and capabilities are. It's actually really, really cool and wonderful. the ability to get photos, group photos from a distance without having to use a crane or to use some sort of helicopter to take pictures, the ability that you can get to get mountaintops that probably nobody has walked on or seen before, and then the ability to just get beautiful landscapes from aerial views. It's really incredible, and if you are someone who's interested in maybe not even just photography, but flight and aviation as a whole, I mean, there are days where I don't record anything, but I fly this thing around and I do some fun stuff with it. I've got a new series I'm trying to put out this summer about some stuff on my own pages and everything, about parks and about different places in Chicago. And it's cool that I can use my drone to fly and to try to get all of these videos that I want. So there's a lot of cool uses for them. There's a lot of cool things you can do. If you are someone who's interested in that kind of thing, definitely look into it. They're great, they're cool. Camcorders are next. Now, camcorders are dying out. More FX cameras are coming out, or what we call cine cameras. They're cameras that are video oriented and focused. They shoot in pro resolution. They basically are the next step in the camcorder world. However, if that's not the ballpark you're looking to get into, because it can be expensive, camcorders still exist. They offer a great service and utility to people who are looking for it, and they're fun. So, what to expect on camcorders. This is more about controls and understanding what they do exactly. But by looking at this, you can kind of get the idea, right? There's power buttons. There's a record button. You have the ability for zoom toggle, a photo button that's dedicated for just photo, not video, your focus knob or dial, iris or aperture control, shutter speed, white balance, and playback controls. Those are all the things that you can expect to see on your camcorder itself as you're going to use it. So, important settings, video quality, setting your camera for HD, 4K, or any other qualities your camcorder is capable of. Image stabilization, setting your camera to have image stabilization on will ensure you have non-shaky video. Face detection, most camcorders will have an auto face detection, which depending on what you're filming can help keep humans or animals in focus. Frame rate, the frame rate at which you're capturing videos, frames for your video. Lesser rate, better for simple standard videos. Faster rate for sports, action, or slow-mo. Again, that's where knowing and using your camera to its full ability is important, but it'll also teach you kind of a little bit more about how this all works. Bit rate, setting your camera helps your helps your camera take in information. The higher the bit rate, the more info your camera is taking in, which then in turn will be better for editing video. It gives you more to play with. Exposure control controls the darkness and lightness of your video. Again, camcorders are simple because they're kind of going out of fashion, but they're still asked and talked about. Why use one? This could be a perfect gift or a perfect utility or resource for you as someone who's into video. If you're not someone who's doing a lot of photo work and you're just trying to learn more about cinematography, making videos, making content, doing something fun with your equipment, then a camcorder might be the way to go. There's accessories that you can pick up like microphones and grips and all sorts of lens hoods and other mechanics that can help manipulate your video for better. Those are available for camcorders too. Typically, camcorders are small, they're easy to use, they have a wrist strap on there too. They're made for the person who's filming video in mind. Last but not least, 360 cameras. These are hard to talk about and explain because really you have to witness it or use one to fully grasp and get it. But this shoots with two 180-degree firing cameras. Works and functions like all other action cams. You can use one camera or both cameras, so you can do it where it's just a simple photo video, or you can do the 360 mode. When you're using this in conjunction with a selfie stick, it'll actually turn it invisible. I talk about that point of view on the action cameras, but this creates a third-person view unlike any other camera that's out there on the market. If you ever wanted to feel like if you ever wanted to see yourself like a video game sees you, this would be the thing that does it. And then videos can be viewed in their entirety with a VR headset, which I think is really cool too. They're small, they're compact, they're durable, they're easy to use, and they have very user-friendly apps, which is huge. Insta360, for example, boasts that their app not only is super friendly and easy to use, but it can actually use AI technology to customize your video for you, setting focus points, cropping out what you don't need, setting color, setting background. They can do all sorts of different stuff with the Insta360 app. But what's really cool about it, and why I like these, is that their slogan that they have is shoot first, think later. You can shoot with this camera in its entirety, and at the very end you can go through, and on the app you can actually move your videos along, set the area that you want to see and focus on, and just kind of maneuver it a little bit better than any other camera that's out there. This really is a unique and kind of a hard to explain device. You just have to try it out and use it to fully get it. But you can get some really amazing videos, much like the guy who's drinking coffee as he's walking through London. Why use 360 cameras? Why does it matter? They're fun, they're adventurous, they're the new technology on the block. You'll see a lot of influencers and online personalities using them. They're cool, they're easy to use, and most importantly too, they're very, very user-friendly, which I think is the most important thing. Being easy to use and offering something that my grandmother can use is two different things. I think that that is a beautiful product that if you were just to try to get new into video and you were like, what, should I get a GoPro, should I get a 360 camera? A 360 camera would be a great option for any brand new photographer or videographer who's looking for something that's not just as traditional as their regular camera. And that is it. Thank you guys for joining me for the month. June, I can't believe, went so quickly. Next month we start at the very beginning and we go through our intro, intermediate, and advanced and beyond the traditional camera. There are 5 Thursdays next month, so let's make sure we understand this. I teach the first, the second, the third, and the last Thursday of every month, just so you're aware. That being said, July 3rd, next week, we'll have our intro class. July 10th is intermediate. July 17th is our advanced. 24th we're off, and the 31st we'll be back to teach another one. If you guys have any comments, questions, or concerns, you can feel free to text or call or email me through what you see on the screen there. If not, you can always reach out anytime you want by coming into Apt Electronics or calling in to ask for myself or anybody in the small electronics department. I'm going to let this sit for a few more minutes. If anybody has any questions, now's the time to ask. I'll answer them live for you while we're here.
All right. Well, it doesn't look like anybody has any questions for me for today, so that's totally fine. As always, I'm Saxon. I'm your camera host. We teach this class every Thursday from 5:30 to 7. Thanks for coming out and watching. Thanks for listening. Again, if you don't feel comfortable asking questions here, you can always reach out to me and ask anytime you want. I'm in store every day except for Tuesdays and Wednesdays. And if you don't want to talk to me, I have plenty of staff that are great and very knowledgeable with cameras, and they're willing to help as much as they can. Thank you, everybody. Have a great night. Have a great Thursday. And as always, keep shooting. I'll see you guys next week.